Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, dark ocean at midnight. The water before you represents everything you don't know about yourself, the thoughts you've never articulated, the memories you've buried, the potential you've never realized. And somewhere, deep beneath those waters, lie ancient structures, chambers of the mind that hold secrets so profound they could transform your entire existence. Yet, you've spent your entire life skimming the surface. Have you ever wondered why you sometimes act in ways that shock even yourself? Why certain dreams haunt you for days? Why particular symbols or images trigger emotions you can't explain? These aren't random glitches in your psychological makeup. They're messages from the depths, from what Carl Jung called the unconscious mind. Most people live their entire lives knowing only a fraction of who they truly are. They identify with their conscious thoughts, their daily routines, their social roles. But beneath this thin veneer of awareness lies an immense psychological territory, a landscape so vast and complex that even the most brilliant minds have only begun to map its contours. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. These words from Jung aren't just philosophical musings, they're a warning. When we remain ignorant of the deeper chambers of our psyche, we become puppets to forces we don't understand. We react rather than act. We repeat patterns rather than create new possibilities. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself in the same relationship dynamic with different people? How often have you sabotaged your success just as you were about to achieve it? How frequently do you feel pulled toward behaviours that your rational mind condemns? These aren't coincidences. They're the unconscious mind directing the show. But here's where it gets interesting and terrifying. The map of the unconscious that most people are familiar with is incomplete. Even those who've studied psychology often understand only the basement level of the mind's architecture. They know about repressed memories, about childhood traumas, about the personal unconscious. But Jung discovered something far more profound, chambers of the unconscious that transcend individual experience, realms of psychological reality that connect us to ancient wisdom, to collective human experience, to the very essence of what it means to be human. And these chambers remain sealed to most people. Why? Because accessing them requires a kind of psychological death and rebirth. It demands that we question everything we think we know about ourselves. It means confronting aspects of our nature that are both divine and monstrous. The truth is, most people are afraid to venture into these depths, and perhaps for good reason. Those who have journeyed into the furthest reaches of the unconscious have often returned changed in ways that society struggles to understand. They speak in metaphors and symbols. They see patterns invisible to others. They exist between worlds. But what if these hidden chambers hold precisely what you've been searching for all along? What if the answers to your deepest questions, why am I here? What is my purpose? How can I find fulfillment? Aren't found in external achievements or relationships, but in psychological territories you've never explored? What if the key to transcending your limitations, healing your wounds and accessing your full potential lies in mapping and exploring these three hidden chambers of the unconscious mind? This isn't just abstract theory. Jung's work has influenced everything from modern psychotherapy to literature, from religious studies to neuroscience. His map of the unconscious continues to guide explorers of the human psyche more than half a century after his death. And yet, the most profound aspects of his work remain obscured, oversimplified in psychology textbooks, diluted in popular culture, or forgotten entirely. Today, we're going to venture beyond the familiar territory. We're going to explore the 3 hidden chambers of the unconscious mind that Jung discovered, chambers that most people never access in their lifetime. What we find there may disturb you. It may challenge your most fundamental beliefs about yourself and reality, but it may also offer you the most profound liberation you've ever experienced. Are you ready to descend into the depths? The first chamber is what Jung called the personal unconscious, but its true nature is misunderstood by most modern psychologists. This isn't just where forgotten memories reside, it's where your shadow lives, all the parts of yourself you've denied, rejected, or never developed. It contains your unacknowledged desires, your suppressed rage, your hidden talents, and your deepest fears. The shadow is everything you don't want to admit about yourself. It's the jealousy you feel when a friend succeeds, the prejudices you'd never express aloud, the talents you've buried because they didn't fit your self-image, the anger you swallow because it feels dangerous. When you feel an inexplicable hatred towards someone who hasn't wronged you, that's your shadow at work. When you find yourself mysteriously attracted to someone who embodies qualities you claim to despise, that's your shadow pulling the strings. These reactions aren't random, they're projections. Your unconscious mind projects disowned aspects of yourself onto others. The traits that trigger you most strongly in others often reveal what you've rejected in yourself. The shadow isn't just darkness, it contains gold. Every rejected aspect of yourself contains energy and potential. The ambition you've labelled as selfish, the creativity you've dismissed as impractical, the sensitivity you've buried as weakness, all these are shadows waiting to be reclaimed. But here's the paradox. The more you deny these aspects of yourself, the more they control you. The shadow doesn't disappear when rejected. It grows stronger, more autonomous, more capable of hijacking your life. This is why seemingly good people sometimes commit shocking acts. Their shadow, denied expression in consciousness, erupts with uncontrollable force. The priest who preaches against sin while secretly indulging in it. The moral crusader who falls to the very temptations they condemn. The peacekeeper who explodes in rage. Jung understood that the first step towards psychological freedom is acknowledging the shadow. Not acting on it destructively, but recognizing its existence. Accepting that you contain multitudes, light and darkness, creation and destruction, love and hate. This recognition isn't about self-condemnation. It's about wholeness. It's about reclaiming the energy locked in rejected aspects of yourself and redirecting it toward conscious goals. The shadow chamber holds the key to authentic power. Not the power that comes from pretending to be perfect, but the power that comes from integrity, from being the same person on the inside as you present on the outside. Now, let's explore the second hidden chamber of the unconscious mind. The second chamber lies even deeper. Jung called it the collective unconscious, a psychological inheritance shared by all humanity. This isn't mysticism or New Age thinking. It's a recognition that your mind is structured by evolutionary forces that stretch back to our earliest ancestors. Your fear of snakes, your fascination with fire, your instinctive understanding of dominance hierarchies, these aren't learned behaviours. They're hardwired patterns encoded in your psyche over millions of years. Within this chamber live the archetypes, universal patterns of power that shape human experience across cultures and time. The mother, the hero, the trickster, the sage, these aren't just characters in stories. They're living forces within your psyche that influence your perceptions, your motivations, and your relationships. Why do certain symbols appear in dreams and myths across cultures that never contacted each other? Why do children who've never heard traditional stories spontaneously create narratives with familiar themes. Why do people separated by vast distances and millennia experience similar psychological patterns? These phenomena point to the existence of shared psychological structures, templates that shape human experience regardless of cultural conditioning. When you feel inexplicably drawn to a particular career path, when you find yourself playing the same role in relationships over and over, when you respond to situations with emotions that seem disproportionate, these are often archetypes asserting themselves through you. The mother archetype shapes how you nurture and care for others. The hero archetype drives your quest for achievement and meaning. The shadow archetype, different from your personal shadow, represents the dark side of human nature we all share. The self archetype pulls you toward wholeness and integration. Most people never consciously engage with these forces. They remain unconscious participants in archetypal dramas, playing out roles they didn't choose and don't understand. But when you begin to recognize these patterns, you gain power over them. You can consciously choose which archetypal energies to embody rather than being possessed by them unconsciously. You can understand when you're in the grip of an archetypal pattern and make deliberate choices rather than automatic reactions. This isn't about escaping the influence of archetypes. That's impossible. It's about developing a relationship with them. It's about becoming conscious of the universal patterns that shape your experience and learning to work with them rather than being controlled by them. The third chamber is the most mysterious and the most powerful. Jung called it the transcendent function, the mind's innate capacity to reconcile opposites and create new psychological possibilities. This isn't about escaping conflicts or contradictions. It's about transcending them. It's the alchemical process through which psychological opposites, conscious and unconscious, thinking and feeling, masculine and feminine, can be integrated into something greater than the sum of their parts. Jung discovered that this function operates primarily through symbols, images, dreams, and intuitions that bridge the gap between opposites. When you experience a profound dream that shifts your perspective, when you encounter a symbol that inexplicably moves you, when you have a sudden insight that resolves a long-standing conflict, that's the transcendent function at work. This chamber is where psychological transformation happens. It's the crucible in which the fragmented aspects of your psyche can be brought together and forged into a more coherent whole. Think of it this way. Your conscious mind operates through linear thinking, language, and logic. Your unconscious communicates through images, emotions, and symbols. These two aspects of your psyche often speak different languages, creating internal division and conflict. The transcendent function is the translator between these realms. It creates symbols and experiences that both conscious and unconscious mind can understand, allowing them to communicate and integrate. This is why meaningful dreams can be so transformative. They aren't just random neural firings. They're attempts by the psyche to communicate important truths in a language that bridges conscious and unconscious understanding. Accessing this chamber requires active imagination, dream work, and symbolic thinking. It demands that you treat your dreams not as meaningless brain activity, but as communications from the unconscious. It requires that you learn to think in images and patterns rather than just linear logic. Jung developed specific techniques for engaging this function: active imagination, mandala drawing, dream analysis. But the essence of all these methods is the same: creating a dialogue between conscious and unconscious, finding the third position that transcends apparent opposites. This chamber is where true individuation happens, the process of becoming your unique self, integrating all aspects of your psyche into a coherent whole that's more than the sum of its parts. The map of the unconscious mind isn't just a theoretical construct, it's a practical guide to psychological freedom. When you learn to recognize your shadow, engage with archetypes consciously, and activate the transcendent function, you stop being a puppet of unconscious forces. You become the author of your psychological life. This doesn't mean perfect self-knowledge. The unconscious is infinite. There will always be depths you haven't explored, but it means partnership with the unconscious rather than submission to it or denial of it. The most profound realization is this: the unconscious isn't your enemy. It isn't a primitive relic to be overcome. It's the source of your creativity, your wisdom, your vitality. It contains everything you need to become whole. Jung himself wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks aside awakes." This awakening isn't about controlling the unconscious. That's impossible. It's about dancing with it. It's about developing a relationship with these deeper aspects of your psyche. Consider the people who have most inspired you throughout history, the great artists, leaders, thinkers, and healers. What they share is often a profound connection to unconscious forces. They've learned to draw from these depths and translate their wisdom into conscious creations. This is the path Jung charted, not just for therapists or academics, but for anyone seeking wholeness. It's about becoming more fully human by embracing all that you are. The journey into these chambers isn't easy. It requires courage, patience, and often guidance. But the alternative is to live a fraction of the life that's possible for you, to be moved by forces you don't understand, to repeat patterns you can't see, to be a stranger to yourself. Each time you acknowledge a disowned part of yourself, each time you recognize an archetypal pattern playing out in your life, each time you allow a symbol from the depths to transform your understanding, you reclaim a piece of your wholeness. This is the promise of Jung's map. Not perfection, but integration. Not escape from the human condition, but a fuller embodiment of it. Not transcendence of your nature, but reconciliation with it. As you venture back into your daily life, carry this understanding with you. The next time you feel an emotion that seems out of proportion, the next time you dream a dream that lingers in your mind, the next time you find yourself inexplicably drawn to or repelled by someone, remember these chambers. Ask yourself what message the unconscious might be sending. The choice is yours. Will you remain on the surface, or will you dive into the depths?